What's up everyone? Welcome back to another update for the Russo-Ukrainian war. This is a pretty big update, but I'm gonna try and keep it sweet and short for this one. I don't want you guys, having to stay for 27 minutes watching a video. So let's just get straight into it, starting with the map updates, then we'll look at some geolocated videos, and also, of course, the political updates. So first of all, I actually forgot about this one. This is from my last update, and I totally forgot about it. So in my last update, I put this on the map. The Russian forces had managed to advance, capturing this tree line right here. And I just completely forgot about it, to be honest with you, because it happened, zoom out, you don't even see it. We've been so focused on what's going on over here that I just totally forgot to mention this one. So this is an older one from a few days ago, but no, you just want to put it out there. You guys can now see it. I'm just going to make it smaller now. But yeah, so that happened a couple days ago. Russian forces advanced here. And I should point out, we have been getting some geolocated videos of Russian FPV drones heavily striking this area. And it just kind of started out of nowhere. There wasn't anything being talked about in this area. And then all of a sudden you just started seeing a bunch of Russian FPV drones hitting in this area. So is it a possible sign the Russian forces could be preparing an offensive along this front? Maybe to push along the river and up the E105 highway towards Zaporizhia. Maybe not. But for now we do have this minor advance as well as some heavy FPV drone activity in the area. So that's all there is for that area. Let's move on to the other areas. Starting off on the Volodar front, Russian forces continue their advance. They have pushed and captured another tree line north of Voldyane. No changes from the coal mine, but Russian forces continue their push. Remember they started like way back here, and over the last few months and especially the last couple of weeks, they have pushed all the way up, capturing Voldyane. Volodar is now in serious trouble of being completely just cut off and surrounded. So this area will probably continue to develop the same way. So we'll see what happens. Let's move on to the next front. That is around Konstantinivka. Russian forces also advanced here. They're trying to push the Ukrainians out of this last area where they still hold some ground east of the 00532 road. And the Ukrainians now only control this one tree line east of the road. Russian forces are starting to close in on that. And they're trying to push the Ukrainians over the road so Russian forces will have full control of this road top to bottom. There's also this area right here which is kind of contested, but overall it's pretty much under Russian control. Moving on, so let's go to the big updates now. So, big updates first of all, and this is our first geolocation that we have. Russian forces have managed to fully capture Ukrains'k, right here. They've managed to fully capture it. And I'm going to show you the geolocation right now. All right, right here. This is Russian forces raising their flag over the village. So Russian forces, again, we know they were surrounding the village, and Ukrainians finally were forced to retreat. They even lost the Toretsk. Russian forces captured the village, stood up and placed their flag. And you can see Russian soldiers are kind of firing their guns into the air here, just celebrating their victory. So that's your geolocation. So we see the Russian forces were surrounding the area. Now they finally managed to fully capture. They've taken Toretsk. And already, I sort of predicted this as well. I predicted the Russian forces were going to try and cut off this kind of conglomerate of large villages, and I would even say a city or two right here, Hrodivka and Hrodivka. I would say those two count as cities almost. Russian forces could, after taking Ukrains'k, just ignore them and push along this railway straight towards the Volta River, forcing Ukraine to abandon all these big towns and cities just like that, with no fight. And Russian forces have already resumed their offensive, advancing west towards whatever this thing is. I think that's a Toretsk, and it's like whatever that is. I don't know. It looks like a bus stop or something like that, but I don't. So this two little buildings right here in the Toretsk, Russian forces have begun their advance onto that. And they've also, this is much more important, they've actually already stormed part of Hrodivka already, which I was not expecting them to do that. Confirmed advances, what we know for a fact, Russian forces have advanced and captured at least the first road right here. The most recent reports that just came out suggest Russian forces have already captured this entire block of the city. That might be pushing a little bit because that's brand new information that just came out. So if I am wrong, I will adjust the map tomorrow. But for right now, according to the newest reports, this is what has just happened. Russian forces managed to fully capture it. They have definitely captured this first road right here, and they probably have captured the rest of this block right here. And the Russian forces have also continued to push through tree line to tree line, taking over all the territory that the Ukrainians have abandoned and left behind. Remember the Ukrainians used to have a major pocket here, but after the fall of Krasnohorivka and the fall of Hrodivka, the Russian forces continued their advance south, and the Ukrainians could see what was going on. So they started to pull out. Remember, a few days ago, or maybe it was like a week and a half ago, something like that, they pulled back to this road. And the Russian forces have now slowly begun to move in and taking over the free territory the Ukrainians just left behind. Russian forces made this big advance right here, capturing all this territory east of Zeleny Pershi, and have captured this tree line right here. These several tree lines right here. Okay, we do have a geolocation from the from the Polk front. I can't show it just because it is very graphic, so I can't show it. And we do now have confirmation. I kind of actually forgot to put it on here. The Russian forces have at the very least, managed to completely recapture this area of Kruty Yar. So remember, this area used to be under Russian control just a few days ago. It used to be under Russian control, but the Ukrainians counterattacked and forced it into a gray zone. They didn't take it, but they forced it into a gray zone. They did capture Mykolivka. So the Russian forces pulled back out of these towns. Now they're pushing back into it. And now we do have confirmed that the Russian forces have most likely recaptured this part of Kruty Yar, likely with no fighting, because it is in a gray zone. But I also kind of forgot to update the map. This is actually kind of my bad. Let me just update the map real quick. Apologies for that. So according to the most recent news that came out earlier today, Russian forces were able to storm this area of Hrodivka. So Russian forces were able to take this. They took the auto parts store. They also mentioned this area in the southwestern part of the large village fell to Russia finally. So this is big news. Russian forces have finally restarted their counterattacks and their attacks on the Polk-Mironograd front. For a long time, it was just this area down here that the Russian forces were attacking. Now we are finally seeing Russian forces pushing in the north once again. They have restarted their attacks. They've basically taken Hrodivka. It's basically fallen at this point, except for this little area up here, like a couple buildings, and then also this area right there. But I would say at this point, Hrodivka has fallen. Hrodivka has fallen. Russian forces have restarted their Polk-Kursk offensive. Not majorly, but they are starting to get back on the move in this front. So it wasn't like a big blowout breakthrough, but they have, well, this kind of is important, but other than that, it's not like they started majorly just advancing. But they have reactivated this front after about a week of no changes whatsoever. And the last change was a Ukrainian advance, but now Russian forces are advancing again. So let's move on to the next front. Again, we did have a geolocation from this area that did prove that this area fell to Russia. I can't show it just because it is too graphic. Ukrainian bodies and all that. I can't show that. Toretsk front, big news. Got some big advances here. Russian forces are breaking through towards the center of the city. They've already pushed part of the center of the city into a gray zone. These high-rise buildings are actually in the gray zone now. Russian forces have captured this residential area, both here and up here. They've also completed the capture of the first high-rise building area right up here. That is major news. No changes from this area down here, but we can see that the Russian forces are clearly aiming to take everything south of this road right here that goes this way and take this whole area in general. So they're aiming to take this entire southern area right there, and they're aiming to take everything that's between here and south of this road. So everything here, Russian forces are trying to take, and they're probably trying to force Ukraine to abandon this forest that's right here without attacking it directly. What they will do next is hard to guess, but I would guess Russian forces will probably not storm the area itself. They might, but they probably won't. They have done this before. They have stormed they can in the city of Bakhmut. We all remember that. Russian forces stormed the center of the city just directly. They just pushed straight on into it. So they might do that again. But I'm personally going to predict Russian forces are going to instead aim for the residential area to the north and for this stadium. Take the stadium and aim for this residential area. They'll also, of course, aim for the Terracons. That will probably be their main goal, and they'll try to get around and not attack the central part of the city and try to force the Ukrainians to abandon it, or of course fight to the death. So that is your update for the Toretsk region. As big Russian advances, Russian forces are clearly restarting their efforts. We weren't seeing that many changes recently until all of a sudden we saw this big Russian advance here. Now the Russian forces are clearly they're picking up the pace once again, trying to advance hard. All right. We have a Russian advance from the Chasiv Yard direction. They have completed the capture of this forest area right here. This is already in the gray zone, so the Ukrainian forces already probably abandoned it, but now Russian forces they've pushed into it and taken it. Russia has basically now completely cleared all the territory east of the canal, except for this little pocket right here, which the Ukrainians will probably just abandon anyways. But the Russian forces are clearly pushing in this southern area, aiming for Stupaki. No changes from across the canal, and no changes from the northern front. No, we don't have any confirmed changes from Hrodivka. Um, again, I'm if nothing changes soon, I might just put half of the village under Russian control because military summary. I looked at his map. Yeah, he has the eastern half of Hrodivka under Russian control because of that geolocation. But Syriac Maps has not updated his map to show that yet. So maybe we'll see if I update the if I think it's necessary to update the map. If we get another geolocation like that, then I will update the map. If we get another geolocation showing Russian forces or Russian vehicles being destroyed, like somewhere up in this area or in here, then yeah, I'm obviously gonna change the map. Up until then, no changes. Just not gonna change it for right now. But I want to point out there that there's a chance Russian forces might already control half of Rivka, and there are no changes inside the city. We have a minuscule, not even worth talking about Russian advance right here along this tree line. Just small little advance, not even really worth talking about it. And we did. So the only real geolocations, we didn't really get any good geolocations from the main parts of the front. We didn't. There was one I couldn't show you, and the other one that really mattered was Ukrains'k falling into Russian hands. Other than that, we didn't really get much. But we do have some big changes. We have one Ukrainian advance. Ukrainian forces right here managed to advance, pushing our forces back from Toretsk. Remember, Russian forces have been fighting for these territories right here. And they're trying to. When the Russian forces lost major amounts of territory in the Ukrainian Kupiansk or Kharkiv counteroffensive in 2022, they were pushed all the way back, pretty much to the doorstep of Crimea. They then launched a big counterattack and ran to retake all this territory pretty much in one big attack. And they pushed right up to the doorstep of Toretsk, or Torsky. But now, finally, the Ukrainians have pushed them back, and they are starting to make a good buffer of territory between the Russians and Tursky. I keep saying Tursky. But as of right now, it's pretty. So Russian forces have finally been pushed away and are no longer within striking range of Tursky for right now. So after 2 years of this front area here not moving at all, it has finally been. The Ukrainians have finally pushed Russian forces back here. So, but Russian forces have made their own advances. In the north, they're aiming for Nevsky, and Russian forces have managed to capture about 2.44 square miles of territory right there. That's obviously a big chunk, and they're aiming to take the village of Nevsky. They've also captured a small chunk of territory up here in Makivka, capturing this looks like a warehouse area or a barn area that they managed to capture right there. So the Russian forces are advancing to the north of Torsky, but on the Torsky front itself, the Ukrainian forces have finally managed to push Russian forces back beyond the beyond the outskirts of Torsky itself. So let's move on to the next front now. All right, we have one Russian advance up here in Pishane. They've advanced along this tree line, reaching this one right here, and they are now just going off of this what we have right here. There we go. Going off of this, Russian forces are now just 2.36 miles from reaching the Oskil River. Once they reach the Oskil River, they will cut the Oskil front in two. That will be major news, and they're going to probably do this by trying to storm the village of Kolesnivka. And Russian forces continue to advance there. We don't have any new updates from Zinkivka. The latest Russian advance was as far as that we know they've gone. So we don't have no major updates from this area, except for this little advance right here. There are unconfirmed reports in the Volchanka that the Ukrainian forces might have managed to push Russian forces out of the factory right here. Not confirmed yet. We saw some bombings going off there or something like that. But overall, even if it was true, it probably happened a long. Even if it is true, and we do change the map to show the Ukrainian forces advancing here, it probably happened a long time ago. This front has become it's just basically been frozen in time. That this front it's just been completely dead. So not much to talk about right here at all. Let's go to the Kursk front. So the Ukrainian forces, there are reports the Ukrainian forces have managed to capture like this tree line right here. So something like this they've managed to do. I'll just put it on the map because Syriac Maps did it. It's not that it's a big deal, but let's just put it on there for the heck of it. There you go, something like that. The Ukrainian forces managed to do this, capturing some territory towards Volfino. So the Ukrainian forces tried to storm this area up here of Obkovka and Veselo, but it has not gone good. The Ukrainian forces were pushed back. So clearly this Ukraine attack is just not very strong. They're just trying to do whatever they can. So after that attack failed, they instead switched to trying to take this area right here, these two villages, and we'll see if they're successful. The Ukrainian forces did capture a little bit of ground. But again, it remains simply super minor, and the Ukrainian forces are just trying to do is to distract Russian forces from their big attack over here, and it does continue. Russian forces have been able to capture the border village of Uspinovka, and they've managed to push all the way up and into the village of Nikolaevo Darino. And the Russian forces can take that, they'll be able to continue swinging around. By the way, there's a river right here. So the Russian force can't take that, they will cross the river and will be able to push onto Hrodivka. And from right there, they'll be able to start hitting Suja from the backside. They've also managed to advance here. But remember, just a few days ago, the Ukrainian forces managed to capture whatever this is right here. Now the Russian forces have recaptured it. The Ukrainian forces are starting to fall back towards these tree lines here. And this area could fall back into Russian control fairly quickly, depending on how strong the Ukrainians and Russian forces are here, because there isn't much here. It's forest and open ground. So up until they reach the village of Plakovka, then it's going to be hard for the Ukrainians to hold on to this territory. If the Russian forces are launching considerable counterattacks. The Ukrainian forces have stopped their advance. They are not advancing whatsoever anywhere. They tried to advance in a few areas, but the reality is the Ukrainian forces are... They see the writing on the wall that they're being pushed back from the flank, so they got to focus on trying to stop that. They're trying to distract Russians with this little attack right here, but overall it's not amounting to much. Alright, that is your full map update. Those are all the advances. We have one little tiny Ukrainian advance here, and one over on the Toretsk front, a bigger one, and the rest is all Russian advances all over the front. So let's go to some geolocations now. I showed you one earlier. Okay, so this is a German mortar being burned up in the Kursk region. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is actually happening in this area right here, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's actually happening. This was recorded in this part of the front right here. So there's the next. Let's go to the next geolocation. So we did get like this. This is in the Kharkiv region. Pardon me. Yeah, in the Kharkiv region, we did get some videos like this of big Russian missile strikes in the Kharkiv Oblast. Is there another one? No. Just this one right here. You can see here, this is taken from a video. This video was obviously taken from a little while away. We can see in the distance, major missile strike happened in Kharkiv Oblast. Alright, here, this is the Kherson front. Russian forces started bombing Ukrainian forces in some towns on the Kherson front. There's always been rumors about all the Russians planning a big, trying to recapture Kherson or anything like that, trying to cross the river again. There's always talks like that. Probably not. It's probably just some usual bombings. Maybe they found some Ukrainians hiding, so they just decided to bomb heavily. So that's probably, obviously, there's probably not going to be like any sort of major sudden Russian crossing of the river. But obviously, we'll see what happens. Russian High Command probably got their plans for what they want to do and all that. So we'll see what happens. Alright, those are all the geolocations that were worth mentioning. So let's go on to the political updates now. Again, we didn't really have too many major geolocations, unfortunately. But obviously there'll be more coming out. So let's go on to the political updates now. Okay, first thing. Video of a destroyed large Russian ammunition warehouse in the city of Toretsk in the Tver region. So yeah, in Russia, I didn't see anything on this on the Telegram. I'm kind of surprised that I didn't, but I don't know where Tver is, but it's somewhere. Maybe I can actually look it up. There you go. So in the Tver region, right there, there was a major missile strike, and an ammunition depot was blown up. Supposedly that ammunition depot had around 20,000 tons of ammunition in it, so major. That's big, obviously. The governor of the Tver Oblast, Ihor Rudinia, UAVs were shot down by air defense systems of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation. A fire broke out due to falling debris. I don't believe that. That's too much of a coincidence. Obviously, Russian forces probably shot down some, if not most of them. But some obviously reached their targets, and one of them blew that ammunition depot up. And I don't think it was just caused by falling debris. It was probably a successful strike. In the Russian city of Yaroslav, a warehouse of fuel and lubricants caught fire at night. Okay, so in Yaroslav, another Russian city, there was a fire that broke out. At night, the Ukrainian military shot down 46 out of 52 Russian Shahed drones. More Russian drones keep going in. Ukraine said they're blowing out most of them. They're probably estimating it a lot, but nevertheless, there are a good number of Russian Shaheds getting through. Probably more than what's being admitted. Norway recorded a jump in radiation on the border with the Russian Federation. Who knows what could have caused that? I really don't know. But Norway is saying that up here on the border with Russia, they detected radiation. So who knows what's going on with that? We don't know what's going on with that. So for some reason, radiation was detected up there. Air Defense destroyed 54 Ukrainian UAVs. This is Russia. According to Russian Ministry of Defense, the Air Defense destroyed 54 Ukrainian UAVs at night. According to Russian Ministry of Defense. So, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told the Times that allowing Kyiv to launch long-range missile strikes deep into Russia would not be a red line leading to escalation. So, Jens Stoltenberg is very pro-Ukraine. He's basically saying let Ukraine just launch its missiles into Russia. It's not a red line. So we know that's not a surprise coming from him whatsoever. Zelensky's office assures that the victory plan excludes freezing the conflict along the front line. So we know Zelensky does not want to freeze the front line. He does not want that to happen. He does not want the stalemate or the attrition-style warfare to continue, because that's bad for Ukraine. That's why Ukraine is losing this war. They just can't fight, and they cannot survive an attrition war with Russia. That's not going to happen. So he wants the front line to be mobile, and he wants the front line to be mobile, and he does not want to freeze the conflict either. He does not want to just say, let's just stop fighting and stop. That's happened in North Korea. In the Korean War, right here, this new front line, the front line used to be along the 58th parallel, down, like, it was something like this. But now, it was basically just a straight line along the 58th parallel. Now, it's this, because this is where the fighting stopped in the Korean War. But there was never a peace deal. The war never officially ended. It was just a stalemate. So they just kind of stopped fighting. They froze the conflict, basically, and just stopped fighting. Now they act like there's peace, but technically they're still at war. They just don't fight. They just act like the war just simply ended. And even though there was never a peace deal, we don't care, basically. So the war ended because they said so, basically. And the war, they just stopped fighting. This was the new border. Alright, guys, that is your whole update. So, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment, hit the bell notification. I hope to see you back here soon in the next video. I will keep these coming. And I'm also going to come up with another election video soon enough. Waiting for more polls to come out. So, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.